Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Building Your Brand. In this class, we are going to learn how to successfully identify and grow your brand. My name is Caitlin, and I am a librarian for Plano Public Library, and I am joined by
Matthew Clark over at Harrington Library and LSR over there.
All right, so today we're going to start off with what is your brand? So in the course of building your brand, we need to first start off with what is it? So a brand is an intangible marketing or business concept that helps people identify a company, product, or individual. It includes everything from personal, corporate, product, and service brands. This is often confused with things like logos, slogans, or other recognizable marks, which are marketing tools that help promote goods and services. These are elements which make up a brand identity, which we will elaborate on more later in this presentation. Brands are considered to be among a company's most important and valuable assets and are often registered trademarks or brand protection. An example of a brand is Coca-Cola, where the popular soft drink has become synonymous with the company's identity itself. Whenever you think Coca-Cola, you think of Coke or one of their various soft drinks. It's something immediate, and the concept really latches onto your identity of the brand itself. You don't often think about Coca-Cola being associated with other soda drinks like Sprite or Dr. Pepper. But Coca-Cola, you hear it, you do think of the product and its intangible identity. However, brands aren't just for corporate use. They are also now commonly used by individuals, especially in the age of reality television and social media. An example of this is the Kardashian family. The family has collectively and individually turned their name into a brand to launch their various spin-off careers, including cosmetics, clothing lines, various modeling, and just their, again, television shows and the brand of Kardashian itself. So again, what is it? What is your brand? You need to really define what category your brand falls into. Is it going to be personal? Is it going to be corporate? Is it product-based or service-based? Think about what you want to be associated or synonymous with your brand. Next, you want to think, is your brand established? If it is, great. You can always think of ways to improve and develop your brand, or think of ways to refresh, rebrand, to better convey a new message. And if you're starting from nothing, no matter where you are in the brand development process, don't let that stop you from getting your business off the ground. The hardest part of this is getting started, which leads us to next defining what is your product. A product is your finished good or complete service you are selling to the public. Products are typically classified between durable and consumable. Durable products include appliances, furnishings, accessories like jewelry, clothing, etc., while consumable goods include what you would expect: food, gas, and other usable items such as glue that have a limited usable capacity. So when thinking about your brand, you're first wanting to think about in terms of what are you selling? What kind of good are you providing? Is it durable or consumable? Next, you want to think about who is selling it. Is there an aspect of your product that ties back to yourself, a product origin story, something that is unique about your product? Think about cleaning goods that were developed by parents wanting something hypoallergenic or didn't use as many chemicals. This is something that will help you develop your brand identity, which again, we will talk more about later. And lastly, you want to think about with your product, what problem are you solving? How does your product fit into the marketplace? Is it unique? Is it filling in a gap? And how can you tie that back into your brand?
And by defining the brand identity, the way you want to pull all of this together is basically including the visible elements of a brand, such as the design, color, logo elements that are memorable to the consumer. All these elements work together to achieve a cumulative image in their consumer base. This is done from the choice of name, logo design, and the usage of color and other visual elements that help promote the image and help promote the brand. When coming up with the ideas behind your brand identity, you want to start off by defining the core values. What is the brand about? One of the ways you can figure out what the core values are is by developing keywords that help you, figure out what the pieces of the puzzle that come together to make you a whole. Think about the words that describe your brand. Think about how you wish to be perceived as a brand, and you really want to lean into those values. A great way to troubleshoot picking those keywords and things like that is by, just thinking about 4 to 5 words that describe the product that you're trying to sell. And once you kind of narrow all that down and fairly figure out who you are as a brand, you can start to develop an image from there. Developing the image comes from making iconography, such as the logos that we talked about. You can figure out what kind of fonts you want to be using, how color will affect your brand, and how the image, how you are perceived is how you basically can identify making a brand identity. One of the other things to think about too is that once you've got a good image together and once you've got your core values together, you want to be able to market it to people. People love having this feeling of uniqueness, and they love the feelings that your product can give them. One of the things that an artist by the name of Gavin Gray Valentine said was that people might forget who you are, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So with people-based marketing, you're basically trying to gauge how to create that memorable experience with your brand, whether it be just a product, a consumer good, or just a basic experience. Which does lead us into promotional material. So part of people-based marketing is getting your product out there and making people aware of it. That can come through print or digital. Print is one of those old, steadfast ways of going about things, and I cannot stress the importance of doing the actual legwork yourself, using business cards, coming up with pamphlets, specific promotional material such as books, leaflets, anything of the like that help get people a physical object in their hand to look at, feel, touch. That stuff is very important to a lot of people when they are trying to figure out whether or not they want to be invested in your brand. Digital is great, however, though, because digital has a much wider net that you can cast. Doing the legwork yourself is great, and being physically there is something that cannot be overstated. But with digital, you can reach, instead of the 500 people you might reach at an event, you can reach about a good 1,000 people from one post on social media. Though when doing social media and things like that, we'll talk about this a little later on, you want to make sure you're sending it to the right people who want to buy the product in general. And one way to help you really push the identity of your brand to these people that you are marketing towards, thinking about style guides, color schemes, font schemes, and logos is something that is very important in developing a brand. And we're going to talk about that right now, actually. So an example of a brand logo that we're going to talk about, and we actually have a little link we're going to provide here if that can be dropped into the chat, is basically on Starbucks. Starbucks has had this logo for quite a while now, but this isn't actually how they started out. The actual original logo for this character is a siren, and it was a lot less child-friendly, let's say. And the design for it was done using pen and ink, and it was done in a very sketchy, almost kind of uninviting style. When Starbucks decided that they wanted to rebrand themselves, they decided to, instead of doing black and white, and instead of doing a very, we'll call it a little like personalized kind of drawing of the character. They wanted to make it a bit more inviting, so they changed the color palette. They also changed from a hand-drawn style to a vector graphic sort of style. And they zoomed in on the character so that they wouldn't have to be worried about any of the non-kid friendly stuff being shown. And we have a very inviting character using green, a specific green that's not really seen or used in most brands in general, is a common color that helps invite you in, especially with a character who seemingly has open arms to lead you in and goes to hand in hand with their model of creating an experience, such as, when they write your name down, call it out and ask for you personally and have a conversation with you as they're making, the coffee for you. That all kind of ties into this logo. Another logo that is something that goes a bit more towards typography and understanding of what it is that you are doing and subliminal messaging. FedEx comes a lot. Federal Express is the postal service system that is basically a privatized company version of the US postal system. What they did is when they decided to make this logo, they used the negative space between the capital E and the X to make an arrow, something that most people don't really realize that they're seeing, but the arrow is pointing to the right, trying to showcase that the items that they are sending are being sent and shipped to their destination, and it's being done quickly. Another comparison you could look at is Amazon's logo. Amazon is a smiley face with the corner of the smile being an arrow to also do the same thing of shipping and showing that it is going in the direction that it needs to go to. Lastly, we have a more recent call it a logo here for the company Gearbox Software. They're a local Frisco company that develops video games and the like. Their company logo is very easy to understand. It is a gear inside of a box. Luckily, also, it has an additional widget or wedge that helps make it seem that the gear is going to continuously keep turning. Something that companies want to showcase whenever they're making a logo or a design is that they want to showcase that they are continuously moving and continuously able to crank out and make new products as they go along. So this being simple black and white and having a suggestion of movement also helps reinforce that the brand is growing and can continue to move forward. But things like this, with all three of these logos that we have, there's plenty of other logos to look at, but these all kind of encompass the ideas that you want when you are designing a logo or trying to think about how to graphically approach the messaging that you want to give for your product and for your brand. One other thing to think about too, after you kind of established your iconography, established your brand identity, is you want to build a base and figure out who your audience is. You also want to figure out who not is your audience, if that makes sense. Basically, with figuring out who and who is not your audience, what you're trying to do is trying to eliminate any excess wasted movement, wasted energy that doesn't need or is not helpful to your brand. An example that I like to use is that if you are someone who is selling cat food, you're not going to try and convince the person that has a dog, a snake, and a parrot to buy into your brand because that's just not for them. Now, you can argue that you want to be the best, pet food in general, but for someone who is focusing on cats alone, you are going to be looking for people who own cats and not dogs and the like. So being able to figure out who is the audience from the get-go helps you figure out how you can really lean in and making that audience stay with you throughout the course of your career.
And this model that you see here on the right is a funnel. It is a fun acronym, TOFU, MOFU, BOFU. Now, this funnel is actually essential to understanding how to use the tools that we will discuss later, those social media marketing tools, and everything we've discussed prior in building your brand. This will really help you utilize those tools in a meaningful way. So with TOFU, we have our top of funnel, our top of sales funnel, because again, with building a base, you're trying to move people through the various stages. So we have TOFU, top of funnel, MOFU, middle of funnel, BOFU, bottom of funnel. And this is our sales funnel model. So with your brand identity, you are ultimately trying to move and communicate with your consumer through this sales funnel. Now, again, starting at the top of funnel, this is your awareness stage. This is the time when you are creating content to your widest range of targeted audiences. This is also where you have consumers who are ultimately in the least buy-in stage. So they have no reason to ultimately go from the top all the way to the bottom in any immediacy. This is where you are first just trying to inform them. This is where you're trying to really build an audience by casting your net wide. Now, once you give them a nugget, something to continue the drive through the funnel, you get to that middle stage, and this is your consideration stage. This is where your targeted audience begins to narrow. This is where a buyer persona kind of comes into play, and it may actually be a lead to a purchase. This is really where you start targeting your content to more explanation, where you're saying, this is why my product fills this gap. This is where you start to share story building and meaningful content that really resonates with an audience. And ultimately, you're hoping at this stage that it moves them down to the decision stage. And this is your bottom of the funnel. This is the ultimate penultimate decision stage. It's the time when the audience has narrowed to the point where your targeted audience are ready to complete a purchase. Now, your job's not done here, because as you can see, there's an after purchase on this model. And really what you want to do anytime with your brand, with your product, is you want to build a base where it is forming a relationship between the consumer and your brand to create return customers. You really ultimately don't want this funnel to be one way. You want it to be cyclical, and you want to be constantly updating each of the pieces you have there in each of those stages, because you want to stay relevant. You want to be considered by your audience even after they've already bought into it. And you want to make sure that all of the reasons that you have, again, are relevant and forward moving. So that is Tofu, Mofu, Bofu, a very fun acronym. I hope it helps you remember how to utilize all the tools we are sharing in this presentation. So next, we have social media and your brand.
Right. We talked a little bit earlier about when we were talking about marketing with print versus digital. Social media is a great tool to communicate with your audience, and it's also a great way to build an audience. Depending on what social media platform you choose, you have up towards of hundreds, thousands, millions of people who have now a chance to access your brand. One of the things to think about when you are making a social media account is trying to figure out which one is right for you. Now, there's never a full-on right answer. It is going to be a lot of testing out the waters. You might find yourself on, Instagram one day and then on, Twitter the next. But we'll talk a little bit about which social media is better for which type of brand. Now, one of the things to think about too when you're working within social media is how it can highlight your products and how you can help make it a useful information tool for whenever you're going to an event or if you're going to be launching a new product and the like. Something that you need to keep in mind is that search engine optimization and why that matters. A lot of social media involves hashtags and other ways that you can search for specific things in their search engines, in social media search engines. Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff have hashtags that you can add when you're posting a new product or a new line. And searching the best hashtags to use, it can be pivotal in making your product stand out amongst the rest. I do know that for personal experience, Instagram has about 30 hashtags per post you can make. And it's important to search those hashtags beforehand. And if you find that it is a higher number in the hashtag searches, like there are 1,000 unique posts with that particular hashtag that you're using, it's actually better to do the hashtag that has 100 particular searches with that hashtag, because it is more unique, basically, and you'll be more likely to be found in those more unique, more niche sort of searches. So when we're talking about social media as well, there are things to understand. Facebook is usually better for a brick and mortar sort of store, because you can put events on Facebook page. You can invite people to come, see new events. You can say people are planning to come visit you. Very good for that sort of thing. Instagram is, very good for image-based postings. A lot of artists tend to travel there. Same with Twitter. Twitter is usually a little bit better for small, short burst posts, just because Twitter only allows 250 characters, and the images have an issue being cropped every once in a while. So it's better just for more, guerrilla, tactics, sort of short burst postings. TikTok is something that's been all around very recently and for a very short amount of time, but it is starting to take over. And while at first it seemed like it was going to be just more of like a joke one-off thing, a lot of social media goers have flocked to it because it's, new, interesting, and now brands are starting to jump in on it because you can actually post long videos, have people join in on live little moments with you, all that fun stuff. So it makes you seem more appealing, a little bit better for younger audiences probably. Lastly, there are places like Patreon, Etsy, and Kickstarter, all of which are great ways to communicate with your fan base in a way that actually nets you revenue. Now, a lot of things to think about too with social media is that when you go into social media, understand that it is not something that is going to net you a lot of money. Think of it as just a place to, go have a conversation with people. It's very hard to actually turn those likes into dollars and so on and so forth. And going into social media with that mindset is going to be the key to helping be successful. Is understanding what is it for, why am I using it, and what is it's going to be the eventual outcome. Usually you don't want to bank on a viral tweet or anything like that. You want to bank on slowly but surely rolling out content for people to consume and enjoy. And that's basically it.
Ultimately, you want to make sure that social media is a reflection of your brand. And that means consistent communication style. So how you communicate on your social media account should reflect your communication of your brand's customer service, of your brand's website language, all the graphics you use, all the colors you use to create content should link back to your brand. It shouldn't be, oh, I look at their website and I see one image, and when I go to their social media accounts, you see another. You want to make sure that you're communicating consistently so that your audience has a consistent vision of your brand.
And one other thing to talk about too, before we go any further, is the proper channels with which to register as a business. First of all, you want to start off by defining what your business is. Are you a limited liability corporation? Are you a sole proprietor? These things are important to note when you are actually registering and setting up as a business with your local government or tax office, because if you're going to be something that that sells on a federal level or throughout the entire US, you would want to make sure that you have a correct federal employment identification number. And then if you're going to sell in specific states, you need to see how they actually function. One thing to note is if you are registered in the state of Texas, you are going to file with a comptroller 4 times a year. They do it on a quarterly basis, whereas states such as Indiana, they do it once a year. So being aware of what dates are important to, file taxes throughout the year, it helps keep you on the up and up with being registered as a business, and helps decrease the amount of times you might be audited.
And setting up your business is just as important as setting up your brand identity, because if one or the other is lacking, your audience will know. It'll show itself in how your business relationships form, on if someone says, oh, yes, this person is really set up well and solid, they're dependable, and they follow through, versus they have nothing registered yet, it was delayed, or I've heard that their tax information is not good. You want to make sure your reputation is impeccable and you're utilizing your resources appropriately. Which leads us into, how do you do this? Now, when you're developing your brand, when you're doing all the things that we have discussed today, we recommend utilizing what is called SMART goals. Now, SMART stands for specific, which is stating what you'll do. It's using action words. M, it's measurable. It provides a way to evaluate. It's using metrics or data targets that are tangible. Achievable, it's within your scope. It's within the scope of your business, your product, your brand, and it's possible to accomplish. It's attainable. It's R, relevant. It makes sense within your job function, and it improves the business in some way. And T, for time bound, give yourself a specific time for when you'll get it done, and be specific on date or time frame. Again, it's just about defining these elements, developing what really should be that SMART goal vision. And it's a way to help you as an entrepreneur have successful, tangible goal results. Using SMART goals to help develop successful business management and brand identity can help you as an entrepreneur stay on track and have your documentation ready, and also have really smart business practices. And that's something you want to have as a brand, as a business, as an entrepreneur. So again, this can be applied to everything we've discussed today. Your brand, as something intangible, is made up of a lot of intangible things that you do need to have. So if you don't have a logo yet, if you don't have social media accounts created, if you don't have your business tax ID information, use this as a tool to help measure and give yourself tangible deadlines to get things done. Make sure that they're relevant to your actual business, and help yourself stay on track and get things done, because it's only going to improve your brand. It's only going to improve your business. And we hope it helps you.
So the library actually has a lot of different resources that are available to you that you can actually access here today. I believe we actually have a link that we can drop in. In fact, we have two different links, if those can be dropped in, please. One of it is the Reference Solutions, which...
Reference Solutions is a essential tool for market research. Reference Solutions is something you can use to look up industry information, can provide you with local heat maps to register your competitors in the area. It's where you can research your competitors on a local and national scale. You can also use it to find consumer lifestyle-based interest. You can actually pull information that is open source public information and determine, do you have an audience in your area for something brick and mortar, or do you have an interest on a larger scale? Next, we have
LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is a great tool to use that can help develop not only soft skills, but help develop the hard skills needed in order to help bolster resumes, as well as bolster your brand in the sense of, data management, whatever systems you're trying to use, such as, Excel, Outlook, all that great stuff that can help get you organized and ready to go with your brand.
It also can, again, help you with those skills to develop your brand or develop more products for your brand. And next we have Business Source Complete, which is powered by EBSCO. And it is, again, available with your library card. It is a very powerful database that will allow you to pull up direct company profiles, industry resources. You can actually look up specific SWOT analysis, which is a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat profile created by various companies. So you can see what someone in the industry of your interest is saying. Oh, this is an opportunity. Oh, this is where we're lacking. And you can see from what your competitors are researching where you might fill in a gap.
And don't forget, we do actually have a YouTube channel through the Plano Public Library that has multiple seminars just like this that you can actually access at any point in time. In fact, this live stream that we're doing today will be on the YouTube channel at a later date.
And we have so many recordings on there of previous class recordings, skill-based resources, partners, and more. And finally, well, in addition to that, we have our Dallas Score Mentors, which is a wonderful partnership that we have with the Plano Public Library. The Dallas Score Mentors are available at Schimmel-Finnick for one-on-one business coaching. And they are a wonderful mentor. They also partner with us for our 4th Tuesday of the month series, Twos Team Up for Entrepreneurship Success, which is a monthly series where we have a different topic that we workshop and that we promote networking and discussion and just general growth opportunities for everyone in the community.
Yeah. And lastly, there is going to be a link in the chat for this one. This one is called from Hire an Illustrator. They are a group of illustrators who have made a collective for getting artists hired and compared with agents and the like. This might seem a little out of place considering that we are mostly talking about a brand and a business. However, the business of art is a business in and of itself. And this link relates back to the earlier quote about building an experience. There are 4 separate articles in this collective link here. One talks about how to define the audience, which we talked about a little bit. This actually goes in a bit further in how to develop those keywords and talking about how you as a brand can figure out what words work for you and how to make that image work. It also talks about crafting the experience, how you can make yourself look like a big deal and how you can create the perceived value of specific items that you're trying to sell and how to make sure you look the part. The same as well as how to make the original work sells. We talked a bit about making a story or having something that relates to you and your journey. Anybody can take the information from these articles and apply it to their personal brand, regardless of it being for specifically artists in this scenario.
So those are some of our library resources. We have many more that are not listed here. Please do check out our business and career page on our library website. We have access to so many databases and so many different resources that can really help you learn about building your business brand, starting up your business. And we're also available for book a librarian sessions or a half-hour, 30-minute session to work with you on any specific question you have about resources or setting things up. So that is also available on our website. So at this time, are there any questions?
Does not seem to be at this point in time, but give it a sec here.
If there are no questions, we want to thank you again for your attendance or for watching this recording on YouTube. We hope that it helps inform your understanding on how to build your brand. And we hope that if you have any questions, you reach out to the Plano Public Library, book a librarian session, come say hi.
Yeah, we'll be hoping to see you there.